So it's been 5 months now since I first got my hands on the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5, Samsung's foldable tablet smartphone combo. In this video, I want to share with you some of the new experiences I've had with this Fold 5 after 5 months of daily use, explain how it fits into my real life day-to-day use case, and share some insight on whether or not I can personally recommend this Fold 5 to anyone out there watching this video. So let's get started. Starting with the price. So at the time of this video, the Fold 5 still retails for its original $1,800 price. However, Samsung is always offering some sort of incentive or discount. At the time of this recording, it looks like they're offering very high trade-in values for a lot of different devices. So for example, I could trade in a Fold 3 to get $1,000 off this Fold 5. And I know you may not have a Fold 3, but just for point of reference, you can quickly go on eBay, look up a Fold 3. They're available here in my country for $400, so I can trade that in and essentially get $600 off this Fold 5, bringing it to a much more reasonable $1,200 price, which actually is pretty competitively priced compared to some of the other foldables currently on the market, which I will be referencing and referring to throughout this video because there's just so many foldable options on the market now. But what is it that makes the Fold 5 so exciting to begin with? Well, the most exciting aspect for me personally is the fact that we have a foldable tablet wherever we go. Having a tablet with you wherever, whenever, still such an underrated feature in my opinion. And while I've noticed that the trend lately is leaning towards foldable phones that have wider external outer displays to mimic a more conventional smartphone on the outside and then opening up to a mega massive tablet on the inside, I still have personally really enjoyed this form factor, mainly because there's just such a good relationship of the outer display and the inner display. There's a lot of under the hood upgrades and a lot of really nice refinements going on here with this Fold 5, which have made it so enjoyable for me to use as my personal primary device. From a more practical standpoint, this Fold 5 is able to replace so many of my devices that I reach for and use on a daily basis. For example, I might have a smartphone, a tablet, a gaming device, and a laptop with me if I'm going or traveling somewhere. But when I have this Fold 5, I literally can use this as my smartphone, as my tablet, as my gaming device, and take care of 90% of my computing needs with this one device here, in addition to a few accessories that I'll show later in the video. But how is the phone held up after 5 months of usage? Since I know durability is a major concern for a lot of people with these foldable phones, and what I'll say, I've said it before, the outer display is really what you need to worry about on these foldable phones, because when you open this phone up and put it on a table or surface, and then you're starting to scroll and use the device, putting pressure on that outer display, it is going to pick up scratches at one point or another. My Fold 5s here, you can see this nasty scratch I have on the outside. I have no idea how this scratch got here, and from personal experience, I can tell you when you spend as much money as you do on one of these, it is really disappointing. So I highly recommend to get a screen protector on the outside. Fortunately though, and what most people are probably worried about, the inner display does have a screen protector installed straight out of the box. But as far as the durability, I didn't find any scratches on the inner display, which is super impressive to me. However, I did find a bit of an indentation or a crease on my left side. Maybe a fingernail got dug into the display, or maybe I pressed my S Pen too hard on the display. I'm not quite sure. Never even knew that was there. I can't feel it or anything. So one small little imperfection after a lot of usage. I'm very happy with that. I am using a case with this phone a lot of the time, so usually my edges are protected. However, my hinge is always exposed, but I haven't noticed any scratches or imperfections on the hinge either. But with the physical aspects of this phone in mind, the reduced weight and thickness of this Fold 5 has made a significant difference in my average day-to-day use. If we go back in time a little bit, go back to the Fold 2, that was 284 grams, Fold 3, 276 grams, and then on the Fold 4, we have 269 grams. So I did notice the weight reductions of the previous folds, but none of them were as significant as this Fold 5, coming in at 258 grams. And I know that doesn't sound lightweight, and there are lighter folding phones that are larger screen size than this on the market currently. But after using all of the previous folds, there is a significant difference on this Fold 5, enough to the point where I am always reaching for this device. I'm always putting this in my pocket. It's always coming with me no matter what because of that lighter weight. When I have this Fold 5 in my pocket, I don't really feel it weighing me down as much as the previous folds. The gap is now completely gone on this Fold 5, and then also the hinge is significantly reduced in size, so left-handed usage feels a lot more viable on this phone, even though I'm almost always using my right hand because of the thumb just being so accessible to the fingerprint sensor. I'll mention it now. I love the side-mounted fingerprint sensor on this phone. It's in a perfect location, dropping your thumb right on that sensor and being able to so easily get into that inner display. Of course, the opening and closing experience is very smooth on this Fold. You barely hear any creaks or clicks when opening and closing. But how has the daily user experience been? Since none of these other aspects even matter if the average day-to-day use isn't good, I've been thoroughly enjoying my Fold 5 so far in my first 5 months of use. Have a super bright display, nice 120 hertz in performance on both of the displays. Feels comfortable to use both the inner and outer display in any sort of orientation you want to. Excellent software and user experience. It seriously does turn using 2 to 3 devices into one singular device. I know it sounds silly, but sometimes I'm thinking about if I should do something on my tablet. Should I do it on my phone? Should I switch to my laptop? The simplicity of the Fold 5 is just being able to take this out of your pocket and use it for literally whatever you need it for. It really does genuinely speed up the rate at which you are able to do things and get things done. But I think the biggest point of contention for a lot of potential buyers or people interested in these foldable phones is that this Fold 5 still is sticking with a more narrow 6.2-inch outer display, and there are other foldables on the market now that offer a very different outer one-handed user experience. For example, the Pixel Fold is the opposite of this Fold 5, and then we have much more competitive options right now like the OnePlus Open that has essentially a standard conventional smartphone size on the outer display, which then gives you a massive tablet on the inside. What I've really appreciated about this outer display is that it's just large enough for what you need it to do. So I send text messages on this outer display, I make phone calls from the outer display, I write emails on the outer display. The keyboard is perfectly fine. It works perfectly fine for just quickly scrolling through the news with one hand. Scrolling through YouTube, for example, you find a video that you want to watch, you go ahead and click on it, and then you can just open up into that inner display, and you can very comfortably hold this phone in your hand, which is another big aspect of this phone for me. You can get a nice, comfortable grip of this phone in one hand. I have really come to appreciate not only just the screen size, but the size of the phone that it gives you and the type of form factor of foldable device this is. Now, as I mentioned earlier, accessories can really enhance the daily user experience of this Fold 5. I'm going to quickly share the 5 main accessories I use with this Fold. The first 2 being cases. The official Samsung Eco leather case. Sometimes I just use the back portion of the case so that I'm able to just put the phone down on the table and not have to worry about it getting scratched or anything. And I love that it's so easy to just quickly take off this case and then put on the modular case that first came out for the Fold 4. I love that I can comfortably hold this Fold 5 in one hand and then use my other hand to write and sketch my notes down or any of my ideas that I might have at a moment's notice. And it feels really nice when you're writing on this display with this S Pen. So this is my personal S Pen of choice to go with this Fold 5, but I will make an honorable mention here that the Fold 5 case with the new S Pen is also a great addition here. The slim S Pen is perfect for just jotting down some quick notes or things, but sometimes I'm doing a lot of writing on my Fold 5 and I want to use that larger S Pen. Another accessory I've really enjoyed to use with my Fold 5 are the Nreal AR glasses. It's so nice to use the outer display and the inner display as your trackpad and mouse while using Samsung DeX on the glasses. There is so much functionality and versatility that is opened up with these glasses alongside the Fold. And last but not least, if you do any sort of gaming, I highly recommend to get a mobile gaming controller. The one I absolutely recommend is the new GameCube G8 controller. It is much more ergonomically friendly in the hand compared to previous Folds alongside the smaller controllers that I would normally use. And with that in mind, I do want to talk a little bit about gaming in this video because I would always call the Fold devices the best mobile gaming experience currently available on the market. But now since I've used the OnePlus Open for whatever it's worth, that is definitely the best gaming experience. Getting a larger tablet inner display, it really does enhance the gaming experience, and the speakers are good, battery's good. A big aspect of why I've still stuck with this Fold 5 for my gaming purposes is because of that outer display. You're able to prop that display up, whereas for whatever reason on the OnePlus Open, you cannot prop up the outer display. Of course, actually gaming on that outer display is going to be more viable as well on the OnePlus Open. But I also really enjoy using the S Pen on the inner display of the Fold 5 because, again, of that softer tip of the S Pen. It just gives a really nice interaction with the screen, and having the simple mouse over feature when the S Pen gets close to the screen is just super helpful for me for pressing in very precise places. You sometimes have to press in really precise spots that your finger may very well likely miss. However, it is worth mentioning that the Fold 5's S Pen cannot work on the outer display. So this is one frustrating point for me because I would love to be using this S Pen on the outer display when I'm gaming because, again, I want to be touching really precise spots and the S Pen helps a lot with that. But as far as the gaming on the device itself, the performance is very good. My emulated games ran very well on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor. Now, something I've also found that has helped me greatly with longer gaming sessions and just using the phone a lot more in my average day-to-day use is the battery life. Now, I've been keeping a very close eye on my battery life on this Fold 5 over the past few months, and I also did the same thing on my Fold 4 when I was using that last year. And when comparing side by side and also just assessing real life usage, I found that overall I'm getting around 1 hour of additional battery life. And also, in addition to that extra 1 hour of screen on time, the phone battery is just lasting into a second day way more often for me personally. If you look at my use cases here, you can see that my Fold 4's battery is dying out in the same day that I had it fully charged. Whereas on the Fold 5, I can very easily extend this phone's battery into a second day before I need to be charging up again. The battery will still drain in those higher intensity tasks. In a recent use case, I got 4 hours and 53 minutes of screen time over the course of 2 days. I was doing a lot of heavy usage, a lot of multitasking on the inner display at maximum brightness. One of those applications was old school RuneScape running at 120 Hz refresh rate, but I've also gotten as high as 7.5 hours of screen time recently when I was using the outer display more. So I was playing that same game on the outer display for a couple of hours instead of the inner display. So the battery life can range from 5 hours to up to 7.5 hours, and usually it lasts over the course of 2 days, which is quite nice. But I will say that the OnePlus Open also has better battery life than the Fold 5. I did a little battery test on this phone over the past week, and I got 6.5 hours of screen on time over the course of 3.5 days. This OnePlus Open definitely has superior battery life, but the overall experience is something, again, I'm often looking at when considering these devices. And the cameras are another area where I find the Fold 5 to definitely be superior for me personally and my needs. So we have an ultra wide lens, have the standard lens, and then we have a 3x optical zoom. The 10x digital zoom also looks pretty good in good lighting conditions. And there's also a 30x zoom option, which gives this camera a lot of capability. But something that really makes a difference for me personally on camera systems is the image stabilization when filming video. So my video footage here on the OnePlus Open, you can see, does look pretty choppy. There is some stuttering going on in this relatively low light scene. Now, if we switch over to the Fold 5, I noticed a lot more stability in this shot here, doing the same exact thing, just holding the phone in one hand. There is still a little bit of fluttering and stuff going on in the upper corner of the Fold 5's video, but as far as just the main overall picture and overall stability and video quality, it's really quite good, honestly. Everyday pictures come out really nice on this phone. We have a 50 megapixel mode on this camera, which just gives you really good crisp results in your average everyday photos. This is a very versatile camera setup. I know the age-old argument comes up time and time again that for this price, this Fold should have the camera capabilities of the S23 Ultra, Samsung's flagship phone. If we get loaded out cameras on this Fold, it'll make it bigger, heavier. It'll have a larger camera bump on the back. It just makes me less likely to use them. It's not as enjoyable or smooth and fluid to use on an everyday basis. It just allows you to use the phone in a lot of different ways without your hands and fingers coming into contact with a huge camera module or anything. So with all those considerations in mind, can I recommend it? Can I recommend you to go out and buy yourself a Z Fold 5? This is a very well put together product from a durability standpoint, from a user experience standpoint, the ability to literally have it replace multiple devices in your everyday life. There's a ton of versatility with the device as far as the software and having Samsung DeX and having the S Pen support. I'm really liking the software experience still the most on the Samsung Fold compared to the other foldables, even though those also have very good performance and smooth software. The Fold 5 is just still the most complete package for me overall, all things considered. The only two real downsides to this phone for me personally is not having the S Pen on the outside. I don't know why we still can't do this. And there's also no 45 watt charging. I didn't even mention it in this video, but we do have a crease on this Fold 5. You can still feel the crease. Don't let that hold you back from enjoying one of these foldable devices. This is the most well put together fold from Samsung to date, but I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on the Galaxy Z Fold 5 down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave a like on your way out, and please consider subscribing to the Shane Simons YouTube channel today, since my 5 months later review of the Z Flip 5 is coming up next. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.